So Z, coming back with Shiek Monsour, there's three teams Shiek Monsour owns, and let's talk a little bit. Give the fans who don't know maybe what teams they are and why this is important.
Okay, Shiek Monsour is the Prime Minister of the UAE, right, the United Arab Emirates, and he is one of the wealthiest owners in basically all of sports. Okay, he himself is worth at least 17 billion pounds. Okay, you can do the math and try to figure out what that is in dollars, but it's a whole lot more than pounds, right? And his family is worth at least $1 trillion with a T, $1 trillion. So basically, he is a nation. Okay, he really is. In fact, he's a few nations combined, right? And he got a lot of attention. Well, actually, I should say he didn't get enough attention because of the purchase he made to the Girona Football Club. Those who aren't familiar with Girona, they are a team in Spain who just got promoted to La Liga. So they're going to be playing against Real Madrid and Barcelona and Atletico Madrid and all of these top tier clubs. Okay? Now they just got promoted, so in reality it may not seem like a big deal. But the Shiek Monsour also happens to own Manchester City, the club, you know, the rowdy neighbors in Manchester in the Premier League. Okay? And so that should have raised a few eyebrows. It didn't. And what's the killer part is, if you think about this, is those aren't the only two teams that he owns. He also owns NYCFC here in MLS. So
that seems remote in some ways, but I mean, there are dealings, there are loanings of players, and there are pulling players back from loan teams, and that could influence, you know, gamesmanship throughout a season. You could park players over here in a U.S. roster, or keep them here for a certain time and pull them back onto rosters when you need to. So, I mean, that could be an advantage to an owner that doesn't necessarily have that ownership interest in both teams. Right?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely remarkable that this has gone unchallenged. And you know, I always the argument that I make is, you know, don't forget, a couple of years ago, you had Leicester City come out of nowhere and win the Premier League. Okay, you literally had a better chance of being struck by lightning than these guys had of winning the Premier League. And here, they went and did it. And they didn't just win. I mean, they had this thing won a month before the season was over. And what happens now if Girona would happen to pull off a miracle and maybe not win La Liga, but they get into the top three? So now you have Girona in the top three in La Liga, and Manchester City, who's going to be in the top four in Premier League. And let's be honest, Manchester City, more than likely, the odds of Manchester City ending in the top four next year are far greater than them ending outside of the top four. So one guy, one owner is going to have two clubs, potentially two clubs, playing in Champions League. What's going to happen when and if they play each other? What happens if that, you know, that's a conflict, to me, that's a conflict of interest. That would be the equivalent of Jerry Jones owning the Cowboys and the Raiders. Okay, what happens come Super Bowl?
Right. AFC team, NFC team, they may not play the Super Bowl, but they could.
But they could, right? And in all honesty, Girona's probably not going to win the Premier League. They're probably not going to come in the top three. They're probably not going to get in Champions League. But I'm not saying, okay, but what if they do? But what if he turns around and buys Atletico Madrid next year? Or he buys, you know, Juventus or, you know, Dortmund? Well, those clubs are all going to make Premier League or Champions League, I'm sorry.
A guy worth $17 billion can go out and acquire players, too, for Girona.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean,
yeah.
He could turn that team into a powerhouse in a hurry.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and even if he doesn't, and you know, you touched on it earlier. What's to stop him from just buying players and just kind of leaving them down in Girona and, you know, leaving them here in NYCFC or whatever? And, you know, well, I just lost a center back from my, you know, Manchester City club, and he's going to be out the whole year, and we're fighting against Manchester United for that last playoff spot, or that last Champions League spot. I'm sorry, no playoffs. What's to stop him from, in that winter transfer window, hey, all of a sudden, this guy's going from MLS over to Premier League, and just, wow, what are the odds of that happening, right? Well, they're pretty good, I'd do it. Let's face it. If I could do that, I would. Who wouldn't?
So yeah, I mean, it's just another indication of sometimes there's not a lot of oversight, or the oversight isn't really working the way it should. And speaking of that, I think maybe we can. I'd like to come back in the next segment and talk a little bit about the Garcia report and what just came out. That it's not a stunner, but it's definitely, as we see it unfolding and as we see it in print, and the way it came out today, in full, it's unusual, and I'd like to get into talk about that in the next segment.